If someone told me I'd one day ruin 2 lives with a single choice, I would have laughed. But sometimes it doesn't start with a choice. It starts with a feeling. A gaze held too long. A silence that says more than it should. A part of you waking up, even as the rest begs you not to. I met Ethan when I was 21, during the kind of summer where time feels endless, and every decision seems like it could last forever. He was the kind of boyfriend your mom falls in love with before you do. Kind, thoughtful, reliable. The kind of man who never forgets your birthday, who kisses your forehead when you're asleep, who makes you tea exactly the way you like it, even when you didn't ask. We moved in together after 2 years. The apartment was small but filled with quiet moments, dinners on the couch, grocery lists stuck to the fridge, a shared Spotify playlist that knew us better than most people did. But somewhere around year 4, the quiet stopped feeling comforting. It started to feel hollow. He stopped asking about my day. I stopped bothering to answer. We loved each other, I think. But more in the way you love your old sweatshirt, familiar, faded, safe. Ethan's older brother, Ryan, was a different story entirely. Where Ethan was stillness, Ryan was noise. Married, successful, magnetic in a way that made people nervous to be around him, and made me sit up straighter when he was in the room. He had that type of charm that made waitresses laugh too hard at his jokes and made you feel seen even when you weren't speaking. Dangerous charm. And I hated how much I noticed it. I'd known Ryan for almost as long as I knew Ethan. I'd sat across from him at family dinners, toasted him at his wedding, helped his wife Vanessa plan Ethan's birthday surprise. We were friends, I guess. At least, that's what I kept telling myself when I'd catch him looking at me just a little too long. Vanessa was stunning, the kind of woman who wore linen and pearls to Sunday brunch and made you feel underdressed without trying. But behind her glassy smile, I always felt something brittle. She never said much to me, but when she did, her compliments came with edges. You have such a pretty face, I'd kill for skin like that, if I didn't know how much makeup you use. I laughed. She didn't. Still, I never questioned our roles. Ethan was my person. Ryan was his brother. Vanessa was his wife. Until the night that changed everything. No, we didn't sleep together that night. Not yet. But something shifted. Something I can't take back. It was a stormy Friday, real cliché weather, the kind that makes the power flicker and the sky look bruised. Ethan and I had fought. Again. Something stupid. Dishes, maybe. Or the way I'd left the window open in the rain. I honestly don't remember. But I remember how he looked at me. Like I wasn't someone he recognized anymore. He grabbed his jacket, mumbled something like I need space, and left. No kiss. No look back. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, just listening to the wind rattle the windows. It felt like the house itself was holding its breath. That's when my phone buzzed. Ryan. He came to see me. Is everything okay? I didn't know how to answer. And when I opened the door 20 minutes later, there he was, hoodie-drenched, eyes sharp, like he already knew what I wasn't saying. We didn't cross a line that night. But we walked right up to it. And we looked at it. And neither of us stepped back. I didn't mean for it to happen. That's what I told myself. That's what women like me always tell ourselves before we cross a line we can't uncross. It started in the hallway, just after dinner. Vanessa had gone upstairs to shower. Ryan poured us each another glass of wine, like nothing about this was wrong. Like he hadn't been watching me all evening from across the table. Like I hadn't been avoiding his eyes and secretly hoping he wouldn't stop looking. You okay? He asked, his voice low. I nodded too quickly. Yeah, just tired. From what? He asked, stepping closer. Pretending? I froze. The air between us thickened instantly. Ryan. You don't have to say it, he said, now barely a foot away. I see you. That broke me. Because Ethan hadn't said those words in over a year. And Ryan? He whispered them like a secret promise. I should have walked away. Instead, I stepped into him. He kissed me first, slowly, deliberately. Like he was testing a theory. Like he wanted to see if I'd pull away. I didn't. When his hands found my waist, my body betrayed me. It leaned in. Welcomed him. The hallway light flickered above us as we backed into his office, still kissing, wine forgotten, breath uneven. Are we really doing this? I whispered against his mouth. He didn't answer. Just kissed me harder. His hand slid under my shirt. My fingers tangled in his hair. When my back hit the edge of the couch, something inside me snapped. Not in fear. In surrender. I stopped thinking. He lifted my shirt. I let him. His fingers traced every inch of skin Ethan hadn't touched in weeks. He laid me back. The room dimmed around us. The only sound was the creak of leather, the rustle of fabric, and our breathing, uneven, quiet, desperate. He touched me like he was afraid I'd vanish. And I held him like I was afraid I already had. It wasn't rough. It wasn't quick. It was slow. Intentional. Like we both wanted to remember everything. I don't know how long we stayed there, tangled and wordless. But at some point, I heard a phone buzzing in the other room, ignored it. When we finally came down from it, hair clinging to skin, hearts thudding, I looked up at the man above me and felt nothing but guilt crashing down. I have to go, I whispered. I know, he said, not moving. I'm with your brother. His jaw clenched. And I'm with my wife. I pulled my clothes on in silence. He didn't stop me. Didn't try to kiss me again. But just before I opened the door, he said, "You'll lie to him, won't you?" I didn't answer. I just walked out. And when Ethan called a minute later asking if I was on my way home, I said, "Yeah. Just left the restaurant. Traffic's bad." I heard him smile through the phone. "Okay. I'll leave the porch light on." And I thought, if he knew where I'd just been, he'd burn that porch down. The day after it happened, I couldn't look Ethan in the eye. Not because he knew, but because what if he did? He was waiting for me when I came home, barefoot, in sweatpants, holding my favorite takeout and saying, "Figured you had a long night." I flinched so hard I nearly dropped my bag. But he didn't even look up from unpacking the food. Just smiled. "You okay?" I nodded. My throat was dry. "Yeah, just tired." "From dinner with Vanessa?" he asked, too casually. My stomach turned. I nodded again, avoiding his gaze, my heart drumming like a warning bell. "Yeah. She drank too much. I stayed a little to make sure she was okay." He smiled, a little too long. Always the thoughtful one. Then he handed me chopsticks and turned on our favorite show like it was any other night. Like I hadn't let his brother take me apart in a room filled with records and guilt. That was the start of it. The shift. Ethan stopped arguing. Stopped commenting on my mood swings. Stopped asking where I was. He became sweet again, unsettlingly so. He started leaving notes in the bathroom mirror. "You looked beautiful last night. Don't work too hard today." He brought me coffee before work, knew exactly how I liked it. He folded my laundry. Cooked. Did the dishes before I even noticed. It should have felt like love. Instead, it felt like a setup. I started waking up in the middle of the night, sure I'd heard something. A door. A drawer. Breathing that wasn't mine. But every time, Ethan was just lying there. Eyes closed. Peaceful. too peaceful. Then little things started going missing. My earrings, a pair I hadn't worn in months, gone. A lipstick I used the night I was with Ryan, vanished. One of my lace bras, the one Ryan had pulled off of me, folded neatly on top of my pajama drawer one morning, even though I hadn't touched it in weeks. I felt like I was losing my mind. Then Ryan went silent again. No texts. No calls. When I messaged, he left me on read. And just like that, I was stuck between two men, one who had touched my body. And one who was now pulling apart my life, piece by piece, without ever raising his voice. One night, I came home to find Ethan lighting candles in the living room. Jazz was playing. The lights were low. Dinner was already plated. I stood frozen in the doorway. "What's all this?" I asked. He smiled, a slow, unreadable smile. "Just wanted to remind you I still know how to make you feel special." He kissed me on the forehead. Held me too long. Too tight. We ate in silence, the clinking of silverware loud in the room. Halfway through the meal, he looked up and said, "You've been distant lately. Everything okay?" I nearly dropped my fork. "Of course," I said too fast. "Just work stress." He nodded. Good. Because if there's anything you want to tell me, you know you can. Right? He held my eyes a beat too long. And in that moment, I knew. He knew. He just wasn't going to say it. He was going to do something with it. The kind of revenge that doesn't scream. The kind that waits. It started small. A text from a random number. "You're not who he thinks you are." No name. No context. Just those words. My hands went cold. I deleted it instantly. The next day at work, someone had sent flowers to my desk. A note tucked between the stems. "One of them still wants you. One of them is watching." No sender. No initials. Just that suffocating feeling crawling up my throat again. I thought maybe Ryan had finally snapped. So I texted him, "Is this you?" He replied instantly, "What are you talking about?" That's when I realized, no, this wasn't Ryan. This was Ethan. This was what he did, no confrontation, just confusion. Pressure. Paranoia. And it was working. I began checking over my shoulder. Closing the blinds. Deleting every message seconds after it was sent. Ethan, meanwhile, was perfect. He started planning a trip for us. Said we needed to reconnect. He even offered to visit my parents, something he'd always avoided before. I should have felt grateful. Instead, I felt hunted. Ryan finally called after 2 weeks of silence. He didn't say hello. Just, "We need to talk. In person." We met at a gas station off the highway, like criminals. He looked worse than I remembered, unshaven, exhausted. There were dark circles under his eyes, and when he saw me, he didn't even smile. "He's doing something," I said before he could speak. "To both of us." Ryan nodded. "I know. Vanessa found one of your earrings. In my car." I froze. "She didn't say anything," he added. "Not yet. But she looked at me like she already knew." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. What could I say?" He rubbed his face, eyes glassy. "She's not stupid." He leaned in, voice low. "Ethan's not angry. That's what scares me. He's calm." "I can't sleep," I whispered. "Neither can I. We didn't kiss. Didn't touch. There wasn't anything left to romanticize. Only fear. The next night, Ethan asked me if I wanted to invite Ryan and Vanessa over for dinner. Feels like we haven't seen them in a while, he said, smiling as he poured wine. I miss them. I nearly choked. I don't think that's a good idea, I replied. Why not? He asked. His voice was light, innocent. Don't you miss them too? His eyes were locked on mine. Not blinking. Not smiling anymore. I think that's when I finally understood Ethan didn't want to confront us. He wanted to control us. To drag this out. To play with us. And maybe he didn't want revenge. Maybe he wanted to ruin us. Piece by piece. And the worst part? He was winning. The invitation came on a Wednesday. A real, printed card, thick paper, gold lettering. No message. Just dinner at ours. Friday. 8 p.m. Just us. It was signed, Vanessa. Not Ryan and Vanessa. Not even a text. Just her name. Her handwriting. Elegant. Sharp. I stared at it for 10 minutes before I realized I was shaking. Ethan found me in the kitchen still holding it. Oh good, he said, voice warm. I was hoping she'd reach out. You knew about this? He smiled as he opened the fridge. She asked me last week. Said she wanted to reconnect. I watched him pour orange juice like we weren't standing in the center of something slowly cracking open beneath us. You should go, he said casually. Closure might be good for you. Closure. He didn't look at me when he said it. And I didn't respond. But I went. Of course I did. Friday night. Vanessa opened the door herself, barefoot, wine glass in hand. She looked stunning. Effortless. And terrifying. Right on time, she said, smiling too wide. Come in. Ryan was already seated at the table, not touching his drink. His eyes met mine for a second, and dropped immediately. The house was too clean. The music too soft. The whole thing felt staged, like we were walking into a trap none of us could name. Dinner was silent at first. Then too chatty. Then quiet again. And then Vanessa spoke. So, she said, folding her napkin, how long have you two been fucking? The air snapped. Ryan coughed. I froze. I mean, she continued, calmly sipping her wine, should we pretend a little longer? Or are we past that phase? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I found the lipstick on his shirt, she added. Months ago. Thought maybe it was someone at his office. Until I found the hotel charge. And the necklace. The one I saw on you the week after. I looked at Ryan. He looked at the table. I wanted to scream, she said. Throw a glass. Burn it all down. But then I realized. She smiled, slow, deliberate. This is better. What is? I finally asked. Letting it rot from the inside. Quietly. Elegantly. She leaned back. You don't deserve to be screamed at. You deserve to feel watched. Every second. I couldn't breathe. Ryan stood up. Vanessa, stop. She turned to him. You don't get to speak. You don't even lie well. Then she looked at me. You should know something. She slid a phone across the table. A paused video was frozen on the screen. Me. Ryan. In his office. That night. She had footage. You weren't careful, she said. And our house has cameras. You know, the ones you helped us set up? My whole body went numb. I haven't sent it to Ethan. Not yet. Thought maybe I'd give you a chance to confess first. I stood up, legs barely steady. I'm done. You've barely started, she said calmly. Ryan grabbed my arm as I moved toward the door. We need to talk. I yanked away. No. You don't get to act like we're on the same side anymore. I left. Halfway home, my phone lit up. Ethan, did you enjoy dinner? Smiling face with smiling eyes. When I got home that night, the door was unlocked. Not wide open. Not dramatic. Just, unlocked. As if Ethan had been expecting me. I stepped in slowly. The lights were off, except for the soft, amber glow coming from the dining room. He was there. Waiting. Calm as ever. There was wine on the table. 2 glasses. One already poured. I figured you'd need something strong, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I didn't move. Sit down, please, he added, still polite. I did. He slid a small black box across the table, velvet-lined, familiar. My heart dropped before I even opened it. Inside was the necklace. The one I'd worn the night it happened. The one I thought I lost. I found it behind the couch, Ethan said, his voice still soft. Not our couch. Ryan's. I stared at it like it might burn me. I wasn't going to say anything, he continued, but then you lied. Again. And again. And I realized, he finally looked at me. You weren't sorry. I am, I whispered, too late. No, he said, shaking his head gently. You're scared. That's different. Then he reached into a drawer beside him and pulled out a stack of printed photos. I didn't have to see them. I knew what they were. Hotel receipts. Security camera stills. The dinner party. The gas station meetup. One of them was me, stepping out of Ryan's car, fixing my lipstick. Neat. Organized. Dated. I'm not a monster, he said. I wasn't going to humiliate you. I wasn't even going to confront you. Then why this? I asked, my voice cracking. Because you deserve to feel what I felt, he said, leaning forward, voice steady. To live in silence, in paranoia. To wonder how much I knew, and when I'd finally say it. He picked up his wine and took a slow sip. Vanessa sent me the video last week, he added. Wanted to use it against you. But I told her no. I don't need an audience. So what now? I asked. You want me to beg? Cry? Move out? Ethan shook his head. I don't want anything from you. That's the worst part. He stood and walked toward the window. Quiet for a long time. Then. I loved you. You know that? I know. I would have forgiven a kiss. Even a night. But you chose him. Over and over. And you lied to me with his name still on your skin. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. I ended it, I said. With him. It meant nothing. He turned, finally, and his eyes were dead calm. That's the problem, he said. You ruined everything. And it meant nothing. He walked past me, into the hallway. At the edge of the stairs, he paused. By the way, he added without looking back, your parents are coming for dinner Sunday. I didn't tell them. Yet. Then he disappeared upstairs, leaving me alone. In a house that no longer felt like mine. I didn't leave right away. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe it just makes me human. I stayed for 3 more weeks after Ethan found out. 3 weeks of tiptoeing through a house that used to feel like home. Of polite small talk, fake smiles, and dinners eaten in silence. We never talked about it again. That was the strangest part. Once it was out in the open, it became a ghost that haunted every room, but never showed its face. I think that was his final move. Not screaming. Not leaving. Just watching me squirm in the life I broke. Ryan never reached out again. Vanessa did. She sent me a message a month later. Congratulations. You broke 2 men. One just happened to break you back. I didn't reply. I thought maybe Ethan would eventually throw me out. But he didn't. He started going to bed earlier. Taking long runs. Seeing friends. He laughed around them. He smiled at waitresses. But never at me. One Sunday morning, I woke up and found the house clean. My keys on the counter. My toothbrush gone. He left before I could. A single note was taped to the front door: "You don't live here anymore." No signature. No goodbye. Just the truth. I moved back in with a friend. Rented a room. Started over, if you can call it that. Most nights, I stare at the ceiling and wonder how it all unraveled so quietly. Sometimes, I still imagine Ethan's voice. The calmness. The silence that followed. Sometimes I wonder if he's okay. Sometimes I wonder if he wonders that about me. But mostly, I think about the moment it all began. The first night. The first lie. The first look from Ryan that lingered too long. And how I let it happen, not because I didn't love Ethan. But because I didn't love myself anymore. That's the part no one tells you. You don't cheat because you're evil. You cheat because something inside you is already broken. And you hope someone else will fix it. But they don't. They just break something else. And what you're left with is silence. That's the end of the story. Let me know if you want a title card, YouTube thumbnail ideas, intro voiceover line, or if we're turning this into a full visual script. I'm all in.